Hey, what's up, everyone? I got a new guest with me today. He's Coach Noah Johnston. Some of you probably already follow him on Twitter because he's really smart, and I told you to follow him. If you don't follow him already, you should. His handle is right at the bottom. I just brought him on the show because we talk a lot. We email each other. He's really interesting. I thought you guys would like to hear his perspective, kind of like I bring Vish on the show. So, Coach, thanks for coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Before we start, why don't you tell people where you're from and how you got into the Niners?
I'm from New Jersey, originally from Connecticut, moved to Jersey a couple years ago. How I got into the Niners, my mother hitchhiked from Connecticut to San Francisco back in the 70s, and she started to like the Niners and passed it on to me.
Cool. It's always passed on, it seems like. Bishop was his dad, you it's your mom. All right, so let's get right into Stafford because this guy could be the Niners starting quarterback in the next few hours. I don't know. But let's just go with the news. If the Niners were to get Stafford, in your opinion, what would be the pros of that move? The strengths, the pros.
The pros, I think, are the contract, because you're getting a guy who I think can probably play himself within the top 10 at approximately 20 mil a year. I think it goes 20, 23, and then I think in year 2023, actually, it's only a $3 million roster bonus they'd be paying him. Of course, if they extend it, it's something different, but he becomes in 2023. And he probably can play himself into the top 10 quarterback. The cons is he's had limited prime time games. I mean, it's one thing to play Green Bay when you're 3-7 and you're playing them on a Sunday afternoon, but when you're playing them on a Sunday night and you're playing for positioning in the playoffs, or you're playing them in the divisional championship, that's a different ballgame.
Right. And those are the games the Niners are going to be in. Those are the games that Jimmy Garoppolo is judged by. And you're bringing in a guy who's basically untested in that way.
Exactly. Those are the games, I think, if you're talking about a quarterback on, next level play, those are the games quarterbacks are judged on. I mean, when you look at, you talk about guys like Brady and the revered Montana, we talk about their playoff success and how they win in the playoffs, and they just win. Stafford's 0-3 in the playoffs, and beyond that, he's had limited primetime games because his teams aren't very good.
Right. So really the pros, the allure with Stafford is his skill set. He has a stronger arm than maybe any Niners quarterback has ever had. And his contract is favorable. His numbers are cool. He'd put up numbers that no Niners quarterback has put up. But is he an elite quarterback? No. And why not? In your opinion, what holds him back from being an elite quarterback?
He has all the physical tools. When you look, he can make every throw. That's undeniable. I think he's been proven he's pretty tough. I think as we know, Kyle Shanahan looks for toughness. I just don't know that he has that intangible trait that we say like a guy like Brady has, that in a key moment is he going to make that play to the next level? Can he elevate guys to play beyond what they're playing at? I don't know. He might have it. I just don't know that he does because Detroit's only made the playoffs 3 times,
right? And
I haven't up to this point.
That's an interesting concept. The whole point of elevating the player of the players around you. You see it from all these quarterbacks, like quarterbacks making mediocre receivers Pro Bowlers, that kind of stuff. And it's what you need to do if you're getting paid that much money. If you're a elite quarterback, it's what you do. It's not what you need to do. It's what you do. And sure, Matthew Stafford has excuses because he's in Detroit. But if Andrew Luck had been drafted by the Lions, he probably would have won some playoff games.
Yeah, and Andrew Luck, when he came into the league, I think his his team averaged less than 4 yards a carry, and I think they had like the 23rd defense or 25th defense, and they made the playoffs.
Yep.
In the conference that also had the Texans, which I think that year were like 12-4.
Right.
That's the difference between that kind of quarterback and what we're talking about is, Matt Stafford.
So he's a physical step up. I mean, would you agree that he's an upgrade over Jimmy G?
Absolutely. There's no denying it. He's absolutely an upgrade over Jimmy G. He's cheap, G, and he's an upgrade over Jimmy G.
Would he be an upgrade over Kirk Cousins? Or is he about at that level?
He might. The thing with Stafford, there's so many. It's unknown because you haven't. Like I say, the Detroit pass, right? I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and he might go to the Niners and start winning. He might start winning games. The Stafford thing I think is comparable to is I don't know if people remember. There's Jake Plummer, right? Jake Plummer was a perennial loser. Was on the Arizona Cardinals back when they were in the NFC East, and people would say, "Oh, Jake Plummer. He wore 16 because I think his idol was once Montana too."
Right. And Walsh wanted him.
Walsh wanted him, right? And Walsh wanted him.
Yeah.
And he had good stats, but not amazing. Yeah. And he signed a free agent, the Broncos. I think they made a championship game, but they never went to the Super Bowl with him.
Right.
Stafford kind of reminds me of the Plumber, and it's interesting that Shanahan Mike was the one that signed him.
Interesting. I was gonna say he reminds me a little of Cutler, just in the sense, again, another Shanahan guy, like big arm, pretty much everything you want physically, the footwork, the quick release, a little mobility, but it's just not all. He's better than Cutler, but it's just a little reminds me of Cutler.
I think he's better than Cutler. Cutler has had a time interception problem. Stafford seemed to have that.
Yes, Cutler made terrible decisions and didn't care. He's like, I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
I got Christian Cavallari.
Yeah. The other thing you think about too is Stafford's last injury. I think wasn't in 2018, but I think it was a back. And
19. No,
right,
19.
Back. Yeah. And what people have been saying like this past year, he didn't miss much. I think he missed the last game of the year a little bit. He might have not played the entire game, but they were saying the back held up, right? So, yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Is it going to hold up after the next extension? Because it didn't with D Ford. Or are you just going to give this guy his retirement fund and he's like, oh, my back, my neck and my back. All right, so that's okay. So there's a lot to worry about there. I got more Stafford questions, but let's go somewhere else. This is, I think, the natural progression of where this conversation is going. In your opinion, is there a better option for the 49ers than Stafford?
It's tough to say right now because I think Stafford is a guy that's available.
Right. Bird in hand.
Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than him. He's younger. I just don't know the price. With the price and how much of the cap Deshaun Watson would take up, I don't know if that's an overall better idea than Matt Stafford because – it's not just the quarterback; it's the team that you could put around the quarterback.
Yes.
If you want Deshaun Watson and you want him to maybe make the playoffs here and there and just lose, then Deshaun Watson would be great. You'd have a Pro Bowl quarterback, and then he'd keep losing in the playoffs. But if your is to go to the Super Bowl, having Matt Stafford at a lower price and you could probably put more players around him, that's probably a better idea.
I thought you were going to say Matt Ryan.
Yes, I'm a big Matt Ryan proponent. However, Matt Ryan is not technically available right now. Sure. And so if I was John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, my plan would be Stafford plan A. I wouldn't want to overpay for him. No, I wouldn't want to give 3 first-round picks. If the bidding got too much for me, I would then look to Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is severely underrated. I think if you look at the division he's played in, you've had the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton, you've had Carolina Panthers with Cam when he was good. Mm-hmm. Ron Rivera is a good coach.
He is.
got a second coaching gig. It looks like, considering the situation he walked into that over there in the Redskins, I think he's doing a good job. Or
Yeah.
WFT. The two of those teams, which I just mentioned, were both made it to the Super Bowl, including the Falcons with Matt Ryan. So he was in a tough division, and he managed to go to the playoffs 10 times, and I think its record is 4-6.
Yes.
I think he's severely underrated. I think he brings, obviously he's not on that Brady level, but I think he brings some intangibles, that leadership to a team, and he can elevate a team, I think.
I think he's a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. And I think the nice thing about him is I don't think he would cost a first-round pick because he's older than Matthew Stafford.
No, you'd have to get him. You've discussed this before because we have. You'd have to get him post June 1 because that's when he would not cost the Falcons salary cap hit.
Right.
So
you have to wait. It might be tough.
Right. So they would have to wait. They would have to wait. Even if you gave a first for him, it would be a first in 2022.
Right. And again, I'm not sure you'd have to give him a first. In some ways, you might be like doing them a favor to take that contract off their hands.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you would either. But again, the Niners are slated to have like something 100+ mil in 2022 in cap. So like if I give a first then, and if I'm looking like if I have Ryan on my team, I'm going to make the playoffs. It's going to be a low first.
True.
I prefer a second, but if they're in a pinch, then the Falcons would probably know, hey, this team needs a quarterback. They're going to try to strip you. So
okay. So let's talk about Stafford real quick. You were saying like basically he's cool, but at what price? What is it going to take to get him in a trade? Obviously, you'd like to not trade the 12th pick in this draft. You'd like to not trade any first-round picks at all if possible. And the way I'm looking at it is, bear with me here. If the Niners trade for Stafford, they're going to probably trade Jimmy to the Patriots.
Yeah,
and if the Niners – no, I'm not going to say that. But if the Niners acquire Stafford and they still haven't moved Jimmy yet, those are two very expensive contracts on the books. The Niners have to get rid of Jimmy. Can't the Patriots just sit back and wait and be like, well, now you got to cut him. We're just going to wait. You're going to cut him.
In my mind, Jimmy Garoppolo is. I've said numerous times on Twitter, if they get anything for him, I think it's a plus. I don't see anything worse. I don't think anything better than a 4.
I think you can make this a 3-way trade. Hear me out. I feel like if you're going to send Jimmy to the Patriots, whatever the Patriots were going to send you back, have them send it to Detroit. Whatever that pick is, send it to Detroit. You send a second to Detroit. Jimmy goes to New England. You get Matthew Stafford. Detroit gets picks. Does that not work? I think that works.
It works, but the only thing is Bill going to sit back and be like, they're going to cut him anyway. So
exactly.
I'll just cut him and it's cheaper. I mean,
yeah.
That's the only thing. That's what I'm saying. I don't see a team that Garoppolo contract. That's a hefty contract in a year where teams are striving to get cap space, and
all I would say, any team that trades for Garoppolo has to extend him the way the Niners would want to extend Stafford. Can't have him on that contract.
Right, but do you want to extend a guy that's been injured a lot?
Only New England would, I think, maybe because they love him. But I don't know if they still like him like that. Only New England would, in my mind, because they know him. They know him.
They know him.
They know him. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think.
Listen, if they can do it, if they can get something for Garoppolo, they should do it.
Right. And I'm thinking that because honestly, I feel like if they trade for Stafford and they haven't got rid of Garoppolo yet, they're just going to have to cut him. So maybe a 3-way deal is the best way to do it.
Yeah. The thing I want to say about draft picks, though, is I think people have to remember this year they're actually worth more than in the past because the cap is lower. So when the cap is lower, the draft is cheap labor. So for teams to get cheap labor on their roster, it's going to be they want it. So it's going to be premium. So draft picks worth more than in years past and years in the future. That's why I say if they can try to keep as many of these draft picks they have this year, it's going to be a plus.
All right. Last Stafford topic. before we move on. We talked about like why he's not elite. Would you consider, is there, instead of saying who he reminds you of, who's the opposite of Stafford? Who is the anti-Stafford, in your opinion?
Eli Manning.
Why?
Manning, because he's had regular seasons and he hasn't been great. He's thrown a million picks and whatever, but once he gets into the playoffs, I mean, that's lights out. I mean, I think if you're a Niners fan, you can remember that NFC Championship game where that Niner defense just brutalized him.
Yep.
And he kept getting back up, and won the game and helped them win the game. So, and he's beat Tom Brady twice.
Yep.
So his 2 championships were against Tom Brady. So, he's a guy that doesn't have great regular season, but in the playoffs, he's pretty special.
Yeah, and it seems like – well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, and when you look at it, because I like to look at does this quarterback create receivers? Eli Manning create receivers. Hakeem Nicks, Manningham. Remember, the Niners signed Manningham, I think, after he had a 1,000-yard year with Eli. Victor Cruz. These guys went.
What has Odell Beckham been since he left the Giants?
His best years were under Eli, and he was complaining about it.
Yeah.
So
that's true. And then you look at Stafford. What wide receivers has he created or elevated?
Calvin Johnson. Yeah. Calvin. I think he's had good receivers. Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, Nate Burleson, but I think some of those receivers, they came and they had success elsewhere. So
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones. They came elsewhere. So you saw the product elsewhere. Hey, they were doing something elsewhere, and then they came to Stafford, still had success. You've seen these guys from like Eli. You've seen them have success with him, and then they go elsewhere and nothing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's enough of Stafford, but it's interesting to think of him in that sense. Now, we agree that just swapping out the quarterback isn't the magical end-all, fix-all for this 49ers team. They also have a free agent left tackle. How important is it for the Niners to re-sign Trent Williams, in your opinion?
I think it's pretty important. The reason why I say is because if you're making a move for a quarterback, which a veteran quarterback, and you're paying for it, you want to protect them, and that's where I think Trent becomes pretty important. I also think that if you don't sign him, I think Seattle will be in the running to get him. Seattle can clear up to $56 million in cap space, including a Dwayne Brown cut of $10 million. So if you don't, they'd be interested in a left tackle to help protect their quarterback, and they're also going to be running the similar system now with their new, So let's not act like those teams haven't traded guys before, where a Seattle player will come to the Niners, Niner player will go to Seattle. It's happened a lot. So.
I see. So if not only would you weaken yourself, potentially risk your investment, you could also strengthen your division rival. So a lot of reasons to be right there at the end of the negotiating process.
I think they have to. There definitely has to be a price point. It's not, hey Trent, here's a blank check. But I definitely would put him up at the top of my priority list, because if you're trying to get a quarterback, whether it's Stafford, Watson, even Ryan, you want to protect him, especially when the right tackle on the other side is questionable.
Okay, we're going to get to him, but let's move along the offensive line. Even with Trent Williams last year, this offensive line was the bottom of the league in quarterback hits allowed. Pass protection was a real issue. So what do you think? How can they improve the rest of this offensive line starting at center?
I think they can sign a center. I think this is actually a flooded center free agent class. You have Lindsey, Mack, the Pouncey from the Steelers, I believe, is also a free agent. The Rams center is a free agent. I'm not sure how they evaluate him. And Kelsey from the Eagles might also be a casual cap in June. So you've got a lot to choose from. I think the market will bear itself to be a buyer's market. So I think you can work and find something there. I also think you can cut Laken Tomlinson, and you could probably get two guards for his price.
I haven't seen it. No one has said that on my channel this ever. I love it. I love it. I wish I had thought that myself. I'm tired of Laken. Get out of here.
Think about last year in Tom Compton. What you could get for the Tom Compton price this year.
Those are the cap casualties.
Right, twice.
You can get quality players. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
honestly, I think Jaquaski Tart might have to sign the Tom Compton contract, because who has money for Jaquaski Tart this year?
There's actually I was just looking at that probably I think it was yesterday I was looking at it. There's actually going to be a lot of safeties out there. So yeah,
I think you're going to see a lot of these guys signing one-year deals. It's like, look, I'm going to get screwed this offseason. Let me just get through it, sign a one-year deal, and hit the market again next year.
Yeah. And I tweeted this before, but there's actually going to be 2 free agent periods this year. It's going to be then you're going to have your June 1 period where it's going to be all these veterans get, and I think teams that position themselves to have cap space in that period are going to do really well, because you're going to have veterans that are going to be looking for work, and you're going to be able to get them on bargain prices.
It's going to be the most exciting offseason for player movement ever. It's going to be great. It's going to be something to write about all the time. So finally, I can't let anyone come on my channel and talk about the offensive line without addressing the right tackle, because I feel like, bring back Trent Williams, get a new center. That's all great. What is the freaking plan at right tackle, or am I overreacting, Noah?
I think it's a little, maybe a little bit of overreaction, but it definitely is something you got to keep your eye on. What I would do personally is, because McGlinchey, you're pretty much locked into Glinchey for another year, is you want to strengthen where you can, strengthen the other parts, and then at least where your weakness is. If Stafford knows, hey, I got a problem on the right side, but the left side is good, and I can and I'm not going to get pressure up the middle. At least he knows where that is. Kyle can use a tight end, not George Kittle, please, to help chip outside,
right,
or pull back, or whatever. I think it's a problem that really should be addressed the following year. I just think with the limited resources that you have, I think that if you address McGlinchey and you don't address the other parts, you'd probably be setting the team back.
Well, let me ask you this way. Since, as we just mentioned, there's going to be this crop of free agents, these cap casualties, these vets who are pretty good, who might take 1 year, $3 million, like the Tom Compton of right tackles. Could they? Is there? I know you don't know the names off the top of your head, but isn't it possible they could get a guy on a 1 year deal who has starting experience, so they could play at right guard and would have the capability to slide over and take over for Mike McGlinchey if he continues to diet his way out of the league, as I'm putting it?
Yeah. You could
do that. Yeah,
you need a swing tackle anyways. So
yeah,
so swing tackle, but then that would be an issue in camp, is where if he's playing better than McGlinchey, is Kyle and are they just going to be like, oh well, he's our starter because he's our first round pick, or
how many quarterbacks is McGlinchey going to get injured before we make the switch? I don't know. It's a tough one.
Right. But the only thing I would say is they didn't make it to a Super Bowl with McGlinchey there. And in the Super Bowl, he wasn't the problem. Where the problem was up the middle, and they couldn't do anything with Chris Jones. That's why I say they need to address interior O-line, and then, next year they can figure it out with McGlinchey.
The thing that concerns me about McGlinchey is that, to me, it's not a McGlinchey problem. It's an offensive tackle not named Trent Williams problem, because Justin School's light too. The Niners are like the only team that has multiple 285-pound offensive tackles. So that, to me, makes me feel like someone on that team told McGlinchey, man, lose a little weight. Like, what?
How much? Yeah, and how much does Brunskill weigh? Isn't he listed at like
295, or I don't know what he's listed at, but he doesn't look that big. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an organization.
And I've heard, I think it's there's a philosophy in that organization about what they look for in tackles. I think it was interesting. I was watching your show a little earlier, you were talking about potential tackles in the offseason. I'm not sure that Kyle would be interested in half of these tackles. He seems to have an idea of what he wants at that position and is picky about it.
Like Villanueva, for example, is he a good enough run blocker to entice Kyle?
Yes. Is he? Can he? I think what he looks for is can he get that defensive end, in that zone scheme? Can he get around him and seal him? If he feels like he can, then he likes him. If he can't, like a la Trent Brown, he doesn't want him.
True. Agree. And that's why you end up getting these run blocking specialists at offensive tackle. Not that that's what Trent Williams is, but that's what Mike McGlinchey is. And I think you've mentioned it before. He's not like your classic road grading right tackle, but he is your classic run blocking specialist right tackle. And I don't think that guy exists really. He's kind of a dinosaur in the NFL.
He is a dinosaur.
Much more of an open formation league now.
Left tackle and right tackle, it's pretty much the same. Right tackle's getting paid as much as if you look at the Chiefs, even Mitchell Schwartz is their best tackle, and they don't have him on the left side. He's been playing on the right side. Why? Because it really doesn't matter anymore.
All right, so let's get into a couple big picture football philosophy topics that you and I talk about all the time. The problem with evaluating college quarterbacks in 2021 as opposed to 2001.
It's the middle of the field. It's wide open. When you look at how the game is played now, safeties and linebackers can't touch receivers coming across the middle. Makes it wide open. The easiest throw for a quarterback is across the middle. I think you talked about it before. Your triangle, easiest it's across the middle. It's the easiest throw. Yeah. It's right in the quarterback's line of sight, and it's an easier throw. So
shorter throw.
Yeah. Shorter throw, easier to see. And so the game lends itself to middle field wide open. That's why you see tight ends becoming so prevalent now, because all their work is across the middle. Safety come up and lay the wood. I remember when you coach that safety position, hey, if he catches the ball, drill him. Even if you get a penalty, we'll take. Now you're going to be rejected, and you can't coach that way.
So it's way easier to play the position than it was even 10 years ago. You can't touch the receivers. You can't touch them when they're running the route after 5 yards. You can't touch them when they catch the ball. You can't touch the quarterback pretty much at any point. So it's a much different. It's like a different position now.
It's a different position. It's easier. I'm not saying quarterback isn't hard to play. I'm just saying it's a lot easier than it was in the past. And receiver is a lot easier. All those digs are there now. Like you wouldn't see those digs all those digs ran back in 2000, because receivers would get their head taken off.
Okay, so here's the thing. We're gonna talk about receivers in a second, but I'm with you on the problem with evaluating quarterbacks. It's an easier position to play than ever before. I think that the college teams do a better job of preparing these quarterbacks than ever before because there's so much passing. It's not like you hand off all the time anymore. So what I say is draft them, develop them, let them go, draft them again, and keep going, because I don't want to spend $40 million on a quarterback. Is it ever going to get to that point?
It might. I think I don't remember where I saw it, but it was an interesting point. Is the money becomes an issue, and how that sells the business. Where that guy, when you got the premium guy, makes money for the franchise.
True.
And say that's our guy.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it makes it kind of difficult, but I think if you look at it logically, that probably might make sense. But I don't know if a team is gonna like, hey, we got Andrew Luck. Let's let him walk and not pay him.
It's what the Oakland A's would do and have done routinely. They just trade away all their stars, and really, really pisses off the fans. It's a good way to have no fans. If you want 0 fans, just trade away your stars.
I personally would be down for that if he's a top 5 guy. I think you got to keep him. If he's one of the spectacular guys, other than that, move. To me, I'm like, have the balls and move them.
Because the reason I ask is, it seems like that's the best way to approach the wide receiver position in 2020. one.
Or is the best way now, and we'll see how this plays out this offseason, is to trade for a veteran guy that they've already paid all the prorated salary bonus for. You get him on the cheap. You look for those years, and then you do it again.
I think that's, to me, those are the two ways I would approach wide receivers and quarterbacks. The guys on the rookie deal and the guys that other teams made the mistake of cashing out that no longer can afford those players, and then I come in and swoop in after the divorce. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are the same with quarterbacks and wide receivers. I don't want to give the $18 million contract to a wide receiver. No.
Right, because even if we're questioning Matt Ryan and his I'm not Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford and his ability, the Matt Stafford that the Niners would have and the Matt Stafford that Detroit have are different. Why? Right. Because Detroit has to that prorated salary, the Niners don't. So he's cheaper.
Yep. So all of a sudden he's viable for the Niners. He's not viable for the Lions. But again, let's bring it back to what Deebo Samuel, heck of a player, could go for 1,500 yards next year. Is that the kind of guy that you would want to give a second contract to?
I would be hesitant to give any receiver a second contract.
Me too.
I think that the way the game is now, it lends itself to receivers having great years, having a lot of success. I think it's easier than ever for receivers to have success. There's more talent at the receiver position than ever. I mean, back in the day, if you were a super talented kid, you'd want to play running back. Now it's play receiver. So it's flooded with talent. You can see it. You're starting to see it in the draft every year. How many
every year?
Yeah, right.
Every year, it's the best year of wide receivers ever. And it is like there's dudes in the third round who are studs as rookies.
Look at the Senior Bowl. There's the Senior Bowl practice going on now. Look at how many receivers are cutting it up now.
Yep.
There's so much receiver talent out there. Why do you want to pay for that? Especially when all these receivers
very expensive too. The
rules lend itself to receivers, so it's easier than ever to play wide receiver. I think, especially if you get yourself a quarterback, we talked about a little bit earlier that the quarterback should be able to help you create wide receivers. So if you have a premium quarterback, if Matt Stafford's the real deal, you should be able to draft wide receivers, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this receiver is awesome. And
that's what the Steelers do.
Yeah, if I was Kyle Shanahan this year, I would devise game plans around. I would get Deebo 1,500 yards and have then I would try to get a first round pick for him, and then I would get another wide receiver.
Right. I saw a mock draft today by a guy I follow on Twitter who had the Niners taking Kadarius Toney at pick 46. I was like, yeah, it's about right. That's about the spot you take a wide receiver. Yeah, he would fit the Niners offense perfectly. The Niners have other needs, but that's exactly the range and how you do it, pretty much.
Right. I mean, were the Vikings that off? They took an awesome receiver, and they traded Stephon Diggs. Now they have the same production, but it's a lot cheaper.
Right, and I'm guessing that Diggs is also cheaper for the Bills than he would have been for the Vikings because of that prorated bonus. So it's a smart move for the Bills too. Right. Honestly, that trade for Diggs was one of the best moves of the year for any team.
It was one of those moves where it was best. It was really good for both sides.
Yes, it was.
You don't really get that a lot. There's not really time. Yeah. Normally you see a trade and you're like, wow, that team fleeced them.
Final point I want to make real quick as we're going here, I'm with you. The devaluation of wide receivers. Do what Pittsburgh does. Draft them in round 2, round 3, and then let them go. But the interesting thing is, I don't think you necessarily have to do that with tight ends. I don't know if you would disagree with me on that. Part of the reason I don't like giving a wide receiver a second contract, it's really expensive. Kittle, he's like 7% of the cap, and he's the highest paid tight end of all time. They're not too expensive. For whatever reason, they're like, there's collusion. And tight ends are like second-class citizens or something, so they don't get paid as much. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, unless in a couple of years, it might take some time for the market to bear itself out. But for now, yeah, tight ends are super cheap. They can get you all the stats that a wide receiver can, and you don't have to pay them as much, and they can help you in the run game. I saw your discussion about Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's valid. Those are valid points. The only thing I would say, I just think the Niners are kind of stacked at skill position. That's why I probably would go Kyle Pitts. If I was in that, if the Niners were in that position and Kyle Pitts was available, I would be calling all the GMs and be like, what can I do to move back? What can I do to move?
I agree. Yeah, because the strength of the Niners offense is their skill positions. That's why Stafford would be intrigued along with Kyle Shanahan's presence on the team. It's not the offensive line.
No, I mean, even Richie James, like, we don't talk about him that much, but how good is he when you actually get him the ball?
That's true.
You know, I know Dwelly is your boy, but he doesn't drop. He doesn't drop the ball. Like, he really
honestly, it's improving. Is finding an upgrade over Ross Dwelly on the number one thing the Niners have to do? No. Is finding an upgrade over Richie James Jr. at number 3 receiver the number one thing the Niners need to do? No, it's not.
No. The Niners should not. The Niners should not draft a receiver this year unless it's like beyond the fourth round. It needs to be 4th round or less. That's when they should be drafting a receiver. All
right. Niner by nature 88 says, Grant, would you waste draft capital on Stafford or draft Kyle Trask in the late first? What do you think of Kyle Trask? Are you not into? No one likes Kyle Trask.
I'm not a Trask fan.
Okay.
I think his receivers make him
fair.
Now his stock is falling. So
yes, that's the thing I like about him too. I mean, you said, would you take Trask in the late first? Not necessary anymore. Not at the Senior Bowl. You could probably get him in. You might get him in round 3.
Yeah, I personally don't like any quarterback. If they get Stafford, I wouldn't take a quarterback in the first 3 rounds unless it was somebody they scouted and they're like, it's Russell Wilson, and they're like, wow, this I can't believe this guy fell this far.
Right.
Trask. It might be Trask. Kyle might love Trask and be like, I can't believe he's in the 3rd round. We need to get this guy. Then maybe
all
get him.
Say is I love Joe Williams and Kyle loved Joe Williams. So we tend to scout exactly the same. It's possible.
To be honest, I like Joe Williams a lot too. But, I mean.
He just didn't want to play football. I mean, that's the thing. If he wanted to play football, he would have been really, really good. Ask UCLA.
You know what? I don't kill that. Wasn't that a 4th round pick?
It was. That's where you take those risks. Now, the problem is they traded up for him. They were really excited. They were like, oh, my God, he's still available. It's like, no. You could wait. You could really wait. I promise.
Yeah. I'm not going to kill them on a 4th round pick.
I'm not going to kill them on that. That's fair.
That's fair. Even you, I know you killed him for a punter, but he's been pretty good. So, I had a coach that told me, if he got a head coaching gig in college, the first position he would recruit would be kicker and punter because he feels like, he could get that quick and he could field position and do this.
My stance on a punter though in the NFL is that there are dudes on the street who are just as good as Mitch Wisniewski. But the difference between the professional punters is like fractions of a yard in terms of net average and stuff. So, I mean, I don't think you really need to spend a draft pick on that. If you don't need to spend draft picks on running backs, I don't think you need to spend draft picks on punters. Kickers are a different story. Kickers are important. If you can have a kicker, I mean, you get a Justin Tucker, that's great. But I don't know. I'm not arguing with you. That's too hard on that one. We could take a couple of questions if you have them. Otherwise, we're out of topics. This was a cool show. Hold on. Big Gold Nuggets, who's a big Jimmy guy, says concerned Stafford injuries piling up. Will show soon.
Question.
I don't know. I don't exactly know what the question is. We're gonna have to interpret. We're gonna have to use hieroglyphics. Figure it out.
If you're saying Stafford has injury problems, so does Jimmy. I am kind of concerned about Stafford's back, but I think it's probably a chance worth taking. Sean Coleman.
Eric, I missed it. Just write it again. Don't donate anything else. I promise I'll put it up and we'll answer the question before we leave. Sorry. What?
I'm assuming maybe his question is about, is Sean Coleman available for that swing tackle position, or she?
Yeah. What do you think of Sean Coleman? Is he hasn't played in a while.
He hasn't played in a while. He's only 900,000 against the cap. So I think depending on how they feel about him, how they really feel about him, and what they get in the draft and what's out there in free agency, he could possibly be a cut. I think the guy that could be cut would be Travis Benjamin. I think he could possibly be cut. I think he's like 1.5, 1.2. I feel like they could probably cut him.
It's like when the cap goes down, you really have to look around your apartment and get rid of the Travis Benjamins right off the bat. Like those are, sorry, Travis, we can't afford you anymore. I don't know why we bought you in the first place, but you and Juszczyk gotta go.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see in free agency what Juszczyk gets, because he might want to be one of those weird situations where he ends up a lot less than what he was getting made.
When he has no market and he's like, "Hey, man, if it's all the same, can I just come back and play for the Niners?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure."
Although, yeah, I saw a lot of Ben Mason talk going on down in Twitter, about, hey, Niners,
Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, and I coached against that kid, and he's a great kid.
Okay. Great. Where do you coach, by the way? Could you tell people a little bit about yourself?
I coach in Jersey now.
Okay.
And I coached previously in Connecticut. I was a defense coordinator for a couple of years. I've been just around in Jersey. So I played when I was in Connecticut. I was a DC on a team that was that played against Ben Mason's team. So yeah.
Also, one more thing before we leave. I did a video a couple of days ago showing how Jimmy Garoppolo blew it in the Super Bowl. And I'm not that good at film. So the first clip I showed you, I said he should have scrambled. Noah's like, no, dude, no. He needs to, both outside routes are open, they're running curls, and Jimmy's not throwing it because he doesn't throw outside the numbers. That was the better point. Noah, would you tell the people real quick, please, what I should have showed them?
So it was cover one
with the rat defender, the whole
defender. Right. So a cover one basically is you've got a safety in the high hole, which is the post, and you've got a linebacker in the low hole, which call a rat defender, and then it's man across the board.
Robber, rat, whatever. Yeah.
So it's man across the board. I think in that play, I don't remember what the inside receivers were running, but they were covered, and you had your two outside receivers looking. I think they were running comebacks. He had both of them. He had to the boundary side. The boundary is the short side of the field. He had that receiver uncovering, and to the field side, the wide side, he had his other receiver uncovering. It's a timing throw. It's a tough.
It's an arm strength throw. Yeah,
it's an arm strength throw, but it's one you got to make. I'm actually.
Your point is like that's the ultimate coverage against Jimmy, right?
Yeah, it's that's the Jimmy beater. That when teams wanted to beat Jimmy, that's what they ran. I believe the Chiefs ran cover one quite a bit in the Super Bowl, and I think teams ran it this year. It's not a secret.
Take away the middle of the field. Boom. End of story.
Right.
That's away the book on Jimmy.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Stafford can make that throw. Yes.
Jared Goff can make that throw.
Jared Goff. That throw.
Everyone can make that throw. Yeah.
Matt Ryan can make that throw. You can't have an NFL quarterback that can't throw outside the can't give you anything outside the numbers.
Right. And can't give you anything deep and can't scramble. You're just too limited. The field is this big. As a defensive coordinator, you're like, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, in a game where it lends itself to quarterback play, and your quarterback can't do that, you're going to get the result that the Niners got. And my other point is, look on the other side of the field. The other team's got a quarterback that can do that and more. So
how do you compete?
How can you win a game when the other guy can do all these things, but you're so limited?
Kyle has to be brilliant. He has to be brilliant.
Right.
He can't be brilliant every week.
Yeah, and what more do you want Salah to do? I mean,
right.
that was one of Mahomes' worst games. He threw 2 picks. He threw for under 300 yards. What do you want him to do? And you're going to kill him for a busted coverage on a 3rd and 15.
Right. We got a bunch of questions coming in. Let's address them real quick before I let you go. Sean says, Grant, what do you both think we should have to give up for Stafford? You think it's going to cost the first?
Yeah.
You think it's going to be the first this year or next year?
In my mind, I think it's going to be 2 firsts.
I don't like that.
But if John Lynch finagles and is able to keep this year's first round pick, I mean, that's A+. That's an A plus.
Yep. If I were John, I would do everything possible to not offer that pick. Anything but that.
I think it was interesting about that Peter King. I think Peter King said what a second or Jimmy G wasn't that what Peter King said? I think
and that's sort of what I'm thinking here. Like a second to Detroit, a Jimmy G to New England, and then New England sends something to Detroit too. That's basically what I'm thinking.
I think that's how you start. That's how you start the conversation to Detroit.
That's the beginning. That's what the Niners would like.
Right.
And then Detroit, okay, well, we'd like 3 firsts, and we're like, all right, well, let's see if we can meet in the middle somewhere. Yeah.
Right. You start with like, hey, will you trade like Jerick McKinnon and like a 2? Like that's what you start with. Right?
Good call. Titus says, do you think there's a franchise quarterback in the draft? Yeah, his name's Trevor Lawrence.
I think I'm a big Zach Wilson guy. I think it's Trevor. And
you are a big Zach Wilson guy. That's true. You know what?
Yeah.
I watch Zach Wilson, and you can nitpick his game. He's a kid. You can nitpick any kid's game. Watching him compared to Trey Lance, my God, he is so much better than Trey Lance. He's really good compared to Trey Lance.
But Zach Wilson is not, to me, it's not a surefire. Hey, that's going to be a perennial.
It's only Lawrence in that category right now this year.
Yeah, so you're still taking a chance with Zach Wilson.
Yep.
So that's why that's why you don't want to trade the whole farm for Zach Wilson. Like if the Niners didn't have a quarterback and Zach Wilson fell to 8, like I would give up. I think you could go up to 8 and not have to give up a whole lot, and it would be worth the risk for a guy like Wilson.
It's basically the trade up that Buffalo made to get Allen. I don't think they gave up a first.
Yeah, but there could be others. Sometimes people didn't tag Mahomes as a franchise QB, so there could be a guy that falls down to 12 or something like that, and he ends up being
most likely there will be one other guy. It's just good luck trying to figure out who it is. I think it's Kyle Trask. I'm probably wrong, but we'll see who it is. 49ers First Take says, with so many people connecting their name to Stafford and people making it sound like a foregone conclusion, what if it isn't?
I just gave you some options there. I think Matt Ryan is a great option. He's a little bit more expensive than Stafford, but you'd get
in money, but not in picks that you would give up in the trade.
Right. In money, but not in picks, you'd be able to defer your pick payment to 2022 or 2023.
Right.
In which case you'd be able to keep this first round pick and then re-sign Trent Williams. The other thing we didn't discuss was that if you look at the caps with the cap and who they have to cut, we talk about D Ford a lot, but there's a difference to when you cut D Ford now or when you cut him post June 1. When you cut him June 1, you save $14 million. If you have to cut him now, it's only $6 million. So if they're trying to squeeze in Trent Williams, they're trying to cut Richburg, and Richburg's another one. I think they save $8 million. I think he saves $8 million if you cut him post June 1 and like $6 million or $5 million if you cut him now. So they want to cut those guys in post June 1, but if they're forced to cut them now, they're not gonna have as much cap space. With a situation like Ryan, where you're waiting to get him, you can make those cuts June 1. You don't have to make them now. Stafford, you might have to make those cuts now because you need the cap space now if you're trying to do Williams and Stafford.
Right. Mark, who is a great contributor to the show, asked a question. I have no idea what he's asking. Mark, I'm sorry. I appreciate the note. I don't know what you mean. So if you want to clarify.
Top 5 emergency rooms in the draft.
I don't know. Is that what the Niners need? Is that was a joke? Maybe that's, I don't know. We'll have to look and see.
Top 5 receivers in the draft?
Probably wide receivers. How about that? Which wide receivers do you like? I haven't really looked at the wide receivers that much other than
do you want to count Kyle Pitts as a receiver? If Kyle Pitts is
he's a receiver. He's a pass catcher.
The 2 Waddle from Bama and the 2 Bama receivers, those are premium wide receivers.
Florida guy.
There's a ton of wide receivers in the draft.
Every year there's like 11 or 12. Yeah. We'll get back to you on that one real quick. Would the Dolphins trade the 18th pick for Jimmy G? Hell freaking no, right? Like not in a million years.
18th pick in the 4th round.
Yeah, maybe the 18th pick in the 4th round.
The Dolphins are interesting. Why would the Dolphins want to have that contract when they already have Tua? It would just bring back Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, pretty much. Fitzpatrick's better than him anyway. Chris Royal, I'm looking for yours. It's if we get Stafford, Rodgers, or even Ryan, I think we need to draft a quarterback in the second round to sit and learn the offense. I'm not against drafting a quarterback, but you're saying it's a little high. There's still needs you got to address, right? You got to give this guy a team.
Right. You need edge rusher. You got to replace D Ford. You need a corner because if you get Ryan, you get Stagg, you might not be able to re-sign Verrett, so you need another corner. So there's needs there. In the interior line, we talked about free agency, but there's no guarantee you're going to get that. I think if you love a quarterback, you take them, and it's late. But I wouldn't go if you have Stafford on your roster. You wouldn't go nuts trying to do it. I think if you don't have one, if like let's say, I know there's your report about the Stafford. Let's say it falls through, and the Niners don't have a quarterback. I think you do have to take one early, but there's definitely veteran options out there. I would go hard at Ryan.
Apparently, ERs is not emergency rooms; it's edge rushers.
Edge rushers.
Hey, I don't know. I haven't even started looking at the edge rushers. Have you looked at it? Not.
It doesn't look like to be the elite class that there has been in the past. I think the kid out of there's a Penn State kid. He's pretty good. The Miami kid, the Miami's been, but
I don't know. I don't know either.
He's talented, but hasn't shown enough. I think the value in edge is probably going to be around the second or third round. I think that's where your value is going to be.
Okay, so you're looking for some like situational rushers, maybe not some 3-down players.
I think it's deeper. I think the edge class I think it has more depth than premium talent. But you might take two and see how they pan out. But again, there's going to be a lot of free agent options, and it's going to be you're going to be able to get free agents for cheap. So
they're not letting you leave, Noah. They want to keep asking you questions. Now they want to say Matthew Stafford or Derek Carr. Who do you take and why? In a theoretical world.
In a theoretical world.
Because I don't even think Carr's available. I mean, the Raiders would have to have.
I think you're just asking to compare the two.
Yeah. Yep.
The two. They're actually pretty comparable to me. Maybe I would lean Stafford, but they're pretty comparable.
Yeah. The tier is like Stafford, Carr, Cousins.
Yeah, but this is a good year for Stafford though, right? Because you got Drew Brees retiring, you've got Phillip Rivers just retiring, you've got a lot of young quarterbacks. So like just by virtue of quarterbacks retiring, he might be able to work himself into that the next right below that tier. Yeah. So
okay, last question. Stop donating money to me. It's really nice, but stop. I gotta let him go, and I gotta go. Preston said, and this is $10, so we really got to take this question seriously. Trading for Stafford would have to be pre-June 1. So only have a cap hit of $10 million. So with cutting Jimmy, who do you prioritize in re-signing? Trent Williams is your number one, right?
Yeah, Trent Williams. I think if you got Stafford, you got to protect him. I would prioritize Trent Williams. After that, it'd be Verrett. And those are the big two. I don't want to pay a fullback $4 million a year. I don't think there's other priority guys.
Here's the thing about giving Williams his money that makes me it makes my stomach turn a little bit. He's probably going to end up getting 10% of the cap. He's probably going to get $24 million a year and get 10% of the cap. Wow, that's quarterback money. And then Stafford's going to be getting about 11% of the cap. So that's 21% on two players. I guess you have to do that in the NFL, but two players in their 30. Yeah. What are you gonna do? I think
let's see what Trent Williams end up getting. Maybe he will get 24, but maybe it's closer to 20.
That'd be great.
If it's 20, that's pretty reasonable. And he sounded like he's willing to work with. He didn't say hometown discount, but he's willing to work with how you structure it.
Sure.
So it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Really interesting.
As I let you go ahead.
If the Niners can't do it, then you figure it out. You get I think Mav put out a great, trading for Armstead. I think either ain't tackle works. Ramczyk can also save the Saints $10 million. Armstead can save them 11, but it have to be post June 1. So I think if it's not all lost if they don't sign Trent Williams, I think they could finagle something. But I would prioritize them.
So you're saying they shouldn't trade they shouldn't trade Nick Bosa for Penei Sewell?
No. Bosa.
That's the defensive coordinator in you, man. That's the DC in you, man.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's but for me. I think in the NFL, you got to. It's quarterback. Yeah. Can you get to the quarterback, and can you protect the quarterback? Nick Bosa can do it. I think if you look at Super Bowl winners in the past, they've all had premium edge rushers. Like why trade away for the piece that you know that you're gonna need? So Peter to pay Paul.
Greg Roman used to say that all the time. Do you learn that in football? It's a football thing. It's definitely a footballism, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah. I remember first coming up, and I think I wanted to move I wanted to move like a starter to a different position to try to get somebody else. And they're like, "No, why are you trying to rob Peter to play Paul?"
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I do love Penei Sewell. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's generational. But again, with draft picks, it's unknown, right? I think there's a lot of less unknown with Penei Sewell, but there's still a percentage. Like, is he really going to be what you think he's going to be? You already know Nick Bosa. So outside
and what Maverick said is really creative. Like, there's going to be these cap casualties who are proven NFL vets, not guys who are on the who are not scheduled to be unrestricted free agents, but will be unrestricted free agents pretty soon. It's a good point. Yeah. Noah, thank you so much for coming on today, man. You killed it.
Hey,
like a seasoned vet. Appreciate you, man. Thanks everyone. Oh yeah, thanks everyone for watching and donating and all that. Have a great day. We'll see you another time.
Adios.
Adios.